Hi, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining our alumni panel discussion. My name is Kristen Kelly. I am the Assistant Director of Admission and Coordinator for Diversity Recruitment. We are excited to have you meet our dynamic group of alumni who are here to answer your questions. This session is being recorded, and we encourage you to participate with your cameras on and audio muted. You may ask questions in the chat or raise your virtual hand, and we'll call on you to unmute and ask your question. I would like to start by allowing our panelists to introduce themselves. They're going to share with you their names, where they're from, the year they, or their undergraduate institution, the year they graduated from the School of Law, and then their work and practice area. We'll begin with Carisha.
Hi, good afternoon, evening, right? Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see so many of you who are interested in going to law school, or at least hearing from us. My name is Carisha Hawthorne Greer. I am a practicing attorney here in Buffalo, New York. I am originally from Montego Bay, Jamaica, so if I chip into some Jamaican dialect or my accent comes out when I get excited, that's the reason why. I came to the US when I was 16 and have spent a significant amount of time in New York State since then. I now claim Buffalo as my home after coming here for law school and meeting my husband, and so we've settled here in Buffalo. I completed my undergraduate at SUNY Geneseo, which is also known as the Harvard of the SUNY system. I know some UB undergrads will disagree with that. I then graduated from SUNY Geneseo in 2011, applied to law school, decided to go to UB Law because it was really just the best decision for me and the best fit. I did my 3 years at UB Law, graduated in 2014. Since graduation, I've practiced in a wide variety of practice areas. Currently, I am a child welfare attorney with the Erie County Department of Social Services, and I basically adjudicate child neglect and child abuse cases in family court.
And hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. We're super excited to be here. My name is Anais Rijo Lalonic. I did get married recently, and I have to make sure I'm using my married name as well. So I apologize if it's not on there. I'm originally from New York City and have claimed Buffalo my home since I graduated from UB Law in 2016. In New York City, I had attended John Jay College of Criminal Justice. That's my undergrad. I hope there's some people here from John Jay. Oh, yeah, I see somebody. Great. Welcome. And my major there was International Criminal Justice. I applied to various law schools. And again, like Carisha, knew that UB was the perfect fit for me. As a New York City native, I didn't even know where Buffalo was, honestly. I thought it was in Canada somewhere, and so did my parents. So that was very interesting. Once I did a visit, I just fell in love, and it was just super, super welcoming. So I graduated from UB Law in 2016. Since then, I also have done various things. But currently, I'm actually a colleague to Carisha. We work together at the Department of Social Services. So one of the things that you will know is Buffalo is a small community. Many of us here know each other very well, our colleagues. And I think that's one of the best parts of having attended UB.
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Jones. I'm actually from Buffalo. So I grew up here, actually right around the corner from the University South Campus. So I kind of familiar with the area for my whole life. I went to UB for undergrad, and then I went to actually only applied to UB Law. I've realized with how affordable it is compared to some of the other schools that I was like, all right, it's UB or a bust. Only applied, thankfully got in, and here I am. I graduated 2017, And currently I practice Social Security Disability Federal Court Appeals with the law offices of Kenneth Hiller. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited for the guests to start asking questions. Again, you can raise your virtual hand or start to add questions to the chat box. I will get us started. I'll start with Justin. What activities, student organizations were you involved with in as a law student?
Sure. So when I was a law student, the two things that took up most of my time, I was on the board for the Family Law Association. So we set up, there was a lot of, things like networking with local attorneys. We set up a bunch of some charity things and events like that. And then I also did a clinic while I was at the university. I did 2 semesters of that. It's a class that you take for credit. However, you actually practice law under an admitted attorney's license, and you get to do a lot of things you wouldn't normally be able to do just in the classroom. Like I did the health law. We dealt with they changed it around. I don't think it's the same program, but we handled doing like wills and a lot of stuff dealing with Roswell Park. So that was really nice, getting to just be able to, practice law, do things while you're still in school. The downside is it did take up a lot of time. So yeah, those were probably the 2 biggest things I could think of offhand.
Great, thank you. Anais?
Yeah, so when I was a law student, I was at first, kind of like, what do I do? What can I get involved in as a first-year law student? Sometimes, a lot of the times you're going to hear, don't get over involved. But me being from New York City, I wanted to make sure that I had some type of like support network and network with all my other classmates. And so I was very active in the student of color organizations. I was a part of the Latin American Law Student Association and the Black Law Student Association. And so I eventually became president of LAWSA. That's what it's called, the Latin American Law Student Association. And that was very, very helpful, not only to expose myself, to networking in the community, but also I have some of my best friends because of those organizations. And I met Carisha because of, being part of BALSA. So, it becomes a great community and support. And besides the student organizations, I was also a part of Moot Court. So under BALSA, the Black Law Student Association, there's a Moot Court competition. And basically it was all Moot Court versus mock trial, very different. Mock trials, like an actual mock trial. Moot Court is like the appellate process. And so I participated in the Moot Court competition through BALSA. We were able to compete and make it all the way to regionals and then nationals. So that was very exciting. And that helped me, with my public speaking abilities and trying to just navigate, like put things in practice, because that's very important. And I was also very involved in like internship opportunities. So I was very, very blessed with everything that UB was able to provide me with.
Thank you so much. And Carisha?
So I'll keep it brief because I see some questions popping up in the chat. I pretty much did everything that Justin and Anais did, in addition to the Buffalo Public Interest Law Journal. I did do mock trial. I did do moot court. There are a wide variety of moot courts. There are a wide variety of externship opportunities, internship opportunities, a wide variety of student organizations that you can get involved in. within your first semester. We have, I forgot what they call it, where they set up the tables and you can get a taste and meet the different organizations, see what they're all about. So there is a lot that you can get involved in. The things that I would definitely recommend getting involved in, because it will help you in terms of building your resume, giving you the skill sets that you need after you graduate. If you can get involved in any kind of moot court or mock trial, that would be great. Oral advocacy, that is very important, regardless of whether you want to do the litigation side or the transactional side of the law. If you can get involved with a law journal or a law review, that would be great, because when someone sees that on your resume, that goes to your legal writing and analysis skill, okay? So definitely keep those things in mind when, and I'm saying when, because you're all going to law school, when you go to law school, keep those things in mind. And of course, if there are any other social interest groups that you're involved in, environmental related things, LGBTQI plus related things, student of color related things, advocating for animals, you can probably find it at UB Law or create the group yourself.
Great, thank you so much. Anais, we'll start with you for this question. What is the greatest piece of advice that you would go back and tell yourself at the beginning of your law school journey?
So probably that it's okay if you don't know what you want to do, or it's also okay to change careers or paths. So I think a lot of us go into law school with a mentality like, I know I want to do this. And then maybe you take a class and you realize, oh, man, this is not what I actually want to do. So just be very flexible and open-minded and don't close yourself off. When I started, I thought I was going to do criminal law or like international law, because that's what I went to John Jay for, and then took a class and realized this might not be for me. And my second year of law school, because we were able to pick our classes then, I was introduced to a course called Children and the Law. Never heard of it in my life. And it was through that opportunity, through that class, that I then was able to learn about attorneys for children, what they do. I was able to do an internship. I then actually, after graduation, well, a few years after graduation, became an attorney for the child. So I actually practiced at the place that was my internship because of this class. And I didn't even know that that's what I wanted to do. And then that led me to my current position. So just be open-minded, be flexible. It's okay to not know what you want to do.
Thank you so much. Carisha?
So I agree with Anais, but in terms of my greatest piece of advice is, it is okay not to know what is going on in your classes, in law school life. That is expected, that is understandable. And even if you have a few students who pretend like they know it all, they're in the same boat that you're in. My legal research, writing, and analysis professor told me this, and I will never forget it to this day, my first day of class. She's like, everything you have learned up until this point, forget about it. Take it out of your head. I am going to teach you how to read like a lawyer, write like a lawyer, and analyze like a lawyer. And she said, I don't care if you're an English literature major, a political science major, an accounting major, none of it matters. And I'm sitting there as a summa cum laude English literature graduate major from SUNY Geneseo, like, what? I know how to write. I know how to read. That's what I did for 4 years in college. And she was correct. Nothing you learn in undergrad is going to matter when you start law school. You're going to learn how to be a practicing lawyer in law school. And so when I started my first semester, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and that's natural because it's something new, it is something different. But I really stressed myself out worrying about the fact that I have no idea what was going on every single day my first semester. And I survived. You will survive your first semester, and you're gonna feel that way up until you finish your last final exam. And that's just part of the process. So that would be the advice I would tell myself.
Great, thank you so much. Justin?
Yeah, I would say one thing that really struck me, at least first year, don't be afraid to go and ask the professors. They're really there to help. They all have office hours, and a lot of them will be like incredibly accommodating to work with you, explain things. Like some of them willing to sit in the office with you for hours, literally going over something. And I really didn't take advantage of that much my first like year and a half or so of law school, and I really wish I had. I think it would have been very helpful, get a better rapport with them, and just because they're so, they're there for you, and I really wish I had taken advantage of that opportunity. And I didn't as much as I would have liked. I did, later on, but I think it would have been better for me if I had been doing that for all 3 years of law school rather than just at the end.
Wonderful, thank you. Uh, Carisha, how long did it take for you to adjust to the workload in your 1L year?
So as I said, you're going to be confused your entire first semester, but you're going to learn. Just do your readings. You're going to figure out the strategy, figure out your study style, and all of that your first year. After you do your first semester and take your first exam, you will feel better your second semester because now you know what to expect. I will tell you your second semester, again, because you're taking different course load, you're not going to be as stressed as you were your first semester because you know what to expect, but you will have more responsibilities because now you're looking at not only handling the coursework, but you're thinking about summer internships and, setting yourself up to have a successful career path when you graduate. So you have very different worries your second semester in your 1L year. Honestly, I don't think I adjusted until after I walked out of my last final exam. I will say by the time Thanksgiving of my first semester, when I had to start preparing for final exam, is when a lot of the things started clicking in my brain. So the process of preparing and creating that outline and preparing for finals, that's when it really started clicking, like everything that I've learned up to that point started clicking. So I would say Thanksgiving leading up to stressing out about taking your final exam, things start to make sense. You adjust for me at least, you never adjust to the workload of law school because that's what law school is. It's going to be a lot of work. They expect it to be a lot of work, expect it to be a rigorous curriculum. Once you start picking your classes your 2L year, then you may have more joy in your courses, but I don't think the workload is any less.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, so I think it depends a little bit, you mean by the workload. So on the one hand, it's a lot. But at the same time, as it would go on, you kind of learn to work smarter rather than harder. You get a Supreme Court case to read for a class that's 50 pages long. You learn to focus in on what's important, and kind of you get through that case in a quarter of the time it took you at the beginning of the year versus at the end. At least for me anyway, it was just a little bit every week, I guess. I think Thanksgiving is kind of around where it all kind of fit together, but just a matter of, you take it one day at a time. You have your readings and your assignments for the day. Some days it took longer than others, but it just, as a whole, it just generally got a little more manageable every day, I thought. And obviously it varies from person to person, but that was my experience.
And so I agree with what Carisha and Justin said. I think it really does vary by person. So number one rule, do not compare yourself to others and your classmates. That is not something you should do. And I know it's hard as humans to not do that because guess what? You're going to be in a classroom filled with students who are probably just as type A, just as, like neurotic about like the things that have to be done and being a perfectionist. Or maybe you are the person that, college was easy and you didn't really have to study. Well, guess what? Law school, you can't leave it to last minute. So it really depends on case by case person. For me, same same situation. It was definitely at like towards the end of my first semester where I finally was like, okay, it's clicking. I understand what to expect. And then for my second semester, I felt a little bit better, like Carisha said and Justin said, because now you know, like, okay, this is what exams look like. This is how much I have to study. These are the clues I have to look for. So your first semester is going to be that kind of like test period. And it is okay if your grades do not come back how you want them to be. You might have been a straight A student. Maybe now you're going to be a B plus A minus student, or maybe it could make, maybe, you might struggle, and that's okay because you still have 2 years left to make up for it. And I will say this, I struggled a lot my first year, but UB had an amazing academic success program. And I was always asking questions to that professor and making sure that I was on top of, all my assignments. So there is always resources and help if you need it.
Wonderful, thank you. Anais, if you'd like to stay on, I'll ask this one to you to start with. Is there anything you wish you did differently in law school now that you are an attorney? And is there anything that you did in law school that you find really helpful as a practicing attorney?
So one thing that I wish I did differently, I wish I would have participated in trial team. So mock trials, like Carisha was saying, because guess what? In my current role, I am a litigator, and Carisha and I adjudicate and basically prosecute abuse and neglect cases. And it would have been, even though I did moot court, it would have been so helpful if I did like trial team, because I think it would have kind of honed in on the skills that I am, needing now. Although obviously you adapt to it, and as a lawyer, you're going to just figure it out. So you'll be fine. So I wish I did that differently. I wish I was a little bit more involved with oral advocacy and the different programs that UB has to offer besides moot court. One thing that I found helpful now as a practicing attorney was all of the practical and like in-person internship opportunities. It's called the practice of law for a reason. And so I think law school and the courses are going to teach you the foundation and the theory, but sometimes it doesn't really teach you the practice. Like, how do I file this motion? Or how do I, where are the courts type of thing. So you learn that through practice, and you learn that through like internship opportunities. So I was very happy that I was involved in some internship opportunities that once I got to my, once I graduated, I kind of figured, oh, okay, well, this is where family court is located. At least I know that. So I'm off to a good start.
Thanks so much. Justin?
Yeah, I mean, the first part, I kind of already brought that up about, getting closer to the professors. So I'll just skip over that. But as far as what was really helpful, I would say, at least for me personally, I do appellate practice. So it's a lot of legal writing. The legal writing class was really helpful. I think how I managed to get a job, just the writing sample I used was from that class. I don't think I would have got the job I got if I hadn't done that. I know for a fact when I interned at a place over the summer, my boss told me, well, we weren't going to hire another one, but we got your application in, and we really wanted to bring you on just because of the writing sample you gave us. And that was my final assignment for my 1L year. So the legal writing was really, really helpful. I've learned a ton. I can say, at least for me, that is the only thing I still use from law school to like directly. Obviously, the learning to be a lawyer you get is super important, and I get that. But just substantively, that's really the only thing. And then also one other thing with that, just the legal research. It's all online now with Westlaw and Nexus, or Lexis, sorry, tongue twisters. Really helpful learning just how to search in that. there's a ton of things you learn with that. There was one day where we went to the law library and they had the rep come and show us, this is how you do the searches, because it's not just a matter of like, oh, you Google something and put it in. There's a lot of specific things you have to do with the searches to find the cases you want. So those are, at least for me, probably, your mileage may vary. Those are definitely the two most important for me.
Thank you so much. Carisha?
So my answer to both of these questions tie into each other. What I wish I did differently in law school now that I'm practicing is I wish I had utilized my mentors more. So when you're in law school, at least UB Law, you get the opportunity to be assigned different mentors through different organizations, through the Alumni Association. So I believe I had, throughout my time at law school, I signed up to be a mentee to probably about 3 different mentors through 3 different options. And I did not reach out to them and talk to them and ask for their guidance as much as I should have and could have. And I didn't realize the value of that until when I got to the point of graduating and looking for jobs. And so, which goes into the second part of the question, what actually really helped me that I did in law school, that helped me now as a practicing attorney, is even though I did not utilize my 3 mentors that were assigned to me over the course of my time there, I went to a lot of networking events. I went to a lot of events that the school hosted, events that the Bar Association hosted. So I still had an opportunity to meet a lot of practicing attorneys in the area, to meet a lot of the top players, the people that have strings, the people that can tell you when job openings are coming up and to put in your resume. And by doing the externships and internships throughout law school, I also had an opportunity to build relationship with judges, because I clerked for a judge for 1 semester. I built relationship with executive directors of public interest organizations. I got to know a lot of managing partners at firms. And so when I was applying for jobs, I could tap into those resources in terms of, hey, do you know of any jobs that's going on out there? Can you, they would tell people my name or send job links to me, even the job that I'm in currently. And this was 3 years out of law school. I got that from someone who became a mentor to me because I met them at a networking event and they told me that the Department of Social Services is hiring. You should probably apply. Let me know when you apply. I will send an email to the executive director saying, hey, this person I'm vouching for, she's applying. Please consider her application. So that was very valuable. And I still know my 3 mentors off the top of my head, and I see them in passing and see them in the community. And every time I see them, I say to myself, I wish I had actually taken that extra step and effort to build a relationship with these individuals.
That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. So I think you guys have definitely covered your piece of advice for your number 1 pieces of advice for upcoming or incoming 1 out year. But what can an incoming law student do to prepare for law school right now? Justin, would you like to start that one?
Sure. I mean, as far as what you can physically do, there's not really a lot. You don't really get there or do anything until you get to school and all that. But I think be in the right headspace. You have to know it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be stressful. Just try to get as much as possible in your life in order. You don't want, whatever may be going on in your life, if it's something messy or busy or stressful, law school is going to be a ton of stress. I'll be frank. It was tough. And if you have other things going on that are also stressful, that's going to make it worse. At the same time, I know sometimes life doesn't really work in a way that you can just say, oh, I can't. So you just have to keep all that in mind. Just be prepared that it's going to be tough. And if you have something going on that you can get done first, something like I don't know, some project or anything going on in your life that you can deal with now, try to do it all beforehand, because the first couple of months really are going to be tough. It was very hard for a few months. So just I'd say that. And I guess on a little bit more of a practical level, when you actually get to the point where you know what the classes are going to be and when they all are, make sure you do everything ahead of time. They just like in college, professors love to send their syllabi out before, in the summer. Get those, look at them, know what's on them. You don't have to memorize them, but at least know what books you're going to need. I know so many people that you think they would have figured it out by the second or third semester, but they would get to class the first day and be like, oh, what do you mean we have to read something for tomorrow? I don't have the book yet. Because the professors love to make sure everyone's prepared ahead of time. So do all that stuff before, find it out, get the books, be ready. That's kind of all I can really say.
Thank you. Anna?
So for me, I was in a very unique position. At John Jay, there was a pre-law program that I participated in, and it was called the Ronald H. Brown Pre-Law Program through St. John's University School of Law. And so I was in a unique position because I was, through that program at John Jay, I was exposed to law school courses and internship opportunities. They also helped me with the LSAT. So I kind of had a little bit of knowledge of like what to expect. But obviously, even with a pre-law program, you don't know until you're in it, right? So it doesn't matter how much you do, you have to kind of go through the process and know that it's okay if you feel lost, if you feel overwhelmed, if you have questions. Even with the pre-law program and knowing they always tell you people might not look like you. It's going to be very challenging. Your first year, you might feel lost. All of that was true. But I found my way, I found my path. And it was because UB was able to provide me with academic resources. I was able to find a family unit within UB, being that I was a New York City native. So if you do have access at your universities or colleges to a pre-law program, definitely take advantage of them, and the resources that your college has to offer, and also any internship opportunities that can expose you to the legal field, so that you also know, is this the right thing for me? Because a lot of students sometimes are like, oh, I just watched this show and it's so interesting. Not all the time is it going to be that exciting and interesting, like a show like Law and Order or SVU. Maybe sometimes Carisha and I sometimes have very interesting cases that come about, but you're not going to be prepared until you're in it.
Thank you. Carisha, do you have anything to add?
I would only add, because the way how the question reads, it reads as if they already know that they're a 1L and they're starting. And if that's the case, just enjoy life until that first day. There is nothing that is going to prepare you to do better or worse. If you are still prepping and trying to and applying and putting yourself in the best position to be accepted, do everything Anais and Justin said.
Great, thank you. If you had it to do all over again, would you still attend UB Law? Carisha, do you want to start with that one?
Yes, and yes. The answer to that question is yes. It is the most affordable, and outside of just costs, the professors, the type of things you get exposed to and have an opportunity to engage in makes the cost even more so worth it. I was able to build great relationship with most of my professors. I was able to do my entire 3L year. Every semester, I was taking a course where I was getting credit and getting hands-on experience. My 2L year, same thing. You have the opportunity at UB. I was really, the network, the alumni network there is so supportive of their law students. They create opportunities for their law student to really blend into the community. And especially if you are, even if your intention is not to stay in Buffalo, or Alumni Network is so large that they can connect you to individuals in the area that you want to practice. And I'll give just one small example, and this is not even my personal example, it's from a mentee that I had that is now a UB Law student. He went to UB undergrad, he's going to UB Law School, but he has every intention of relocating to Texas to practice. And every summer, he has been able to get an opportunity to intern or do a summer associate in Texas due to the Alumni Network and connection. And so the Alumni Network and connection and the hands-on experience that you're able to get, that doesn't even, and it doesn't take away from your grades, it doesn't take away from graduating on time, because these are things that you get credit for, makes it worth it. Plus, it was also cheap, and you have scholarship opportunities. Like I was able to graduate law school with little to no debt by being very strategic in my financial aid planning. So.
Awesome, thank you. Justin?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, I only applied to UB. I was like, all right, if I don't get in here, I'll try again next year or do something else. I think it's the affordability. I can't stress it enough. I don't know if it's officially the most affordable law school in the country. I know for a while, I think it was the U.S. News Report was doing like a financial affordability ranking, and UB was like number 2 or 3 in the country on that every year. I don't know if they still do that. That was a few years back, but that's huge. And then yeah, the alumni, they're everywhere. And another thing, I know a lot of people that have went to different law schools. I work with them. I've met them at conferences, things like that. I've met people who went to Harvard, and just talking to them about law school, it sounds the same. Like as long as UB's a great school. I know people that have went to schools that are arguably, better, highly ranked, whatever. And I think personally, my law school experience was just as good, if not better, than all of theirs. So I would definitely do it again.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, and I echo everything that Carisha and Justin said. For me, being from New York City, whoever is from New York City, we think we're the center of the universe, right? Like New York City is the best. We're the best city. I mean, I still kind of think so. No, just playing. But it was, yes, heck yes. Affordability, everybody has kind of touched upon that. I mean, I think in New York State, CUNY is probably the cheapest, CUNY Law. Then it's SUNY, right? So for me, thinking about, okay, what do I want to do after graduation? I really didn't know if I was going to stay in Buffalo until I got a job offer. The fact that because I was a UB grad, the network here is amazing. I mean, you're not a number. Like if you were to go to a New York City, for example, where you're competing not only with New York City people, but international and everyone in the country who wants to be in New York City. In Buffalo, we're the only law school in the Western New York area. Okay, so there's after us, then there's like Syracuse and then Albany, but like in the Western New York area, like this is it. So the amount of networking that you're going to be able to get, the job opportunities that you're going to be able to get are definitely higher than if you were to go to maybe like a downstate school. That's my personal experience, because I did have friends that were also from New York City that, struggled a little bit to get a job because they were competing with so many people. Not necessarily that it's not going to happen, because again, UB offers opportunities all over the country, like Carisha said, but it was nice to like people remember. Maybe they might not know how to pronounce my name, but they knew who I was when I graduated. They were like, yes, okay, and vouched for you. I wasn't just like a number like I would have been if I stayed in New York City. So yes, UB Law all the way.
So Anais, you sort of touched on it, but what was your job search like following graduation? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so I once 3L year hit, I had the opportunity to apply for a fellowship. So in I believe it was my second semester of my 3L year, so I'm almost like graduating, I applied to a public service government fellowship called the New York State Excelsior Fellowship. Not many schools offer that opportunity. UB happened to be one of the schools that offered it. And so I applied and was accepted. And the program was basically exposing students, not only law students, but like also graduate students from other programs to the government sector. And so I was placed at the State Liquor Authority, the office here in Buffalo. So it was the only spot in Buffalo that I was unique, like able to get selected for. Other people were selected for spots in Albany or New York City. But it was what led me to keep my roots in Buffalo because of networking with mentors and being involved in bar associations and stuff like that. So my 3L year, thankfully, I did have a job lined up after graduation. And I feel like a lot of my colleagues also did. So UB is very uniquely positioned in that way that most of the time, most of your colleagues you'll have a job. And so then after that, because of the bar, you don't have to worry about that yet. We're not going to get into it. I did the fellowship for a year and then ended up in insurance defense after that for another year. And then after that was in AFC for 2 years. And now I'm with the Department of Social Services, and the UB and my mentors were able to help me with each position. So if it wasn't for UB, I mean, I don't know where I would be, honestly. So yeah, it was for me, it would seem like it was a smooth path and transition after graduation.
Thank you so much. Carisha, can you touch on your job search after graduation?
Yes. So my job search actually started my 3L spring semester. So it wasn't even after graduation. I started applying to jobs my 3L spring semester because I was one of those people who are like, you just did 3 years, got this degree, now you need to get a job and start paying some bills and paying back some loans. I applied to everything. I applied to legal jobs, non-legal jobs, because the benefit of getting that JD is it is such an asset. You can use it in any field. If you decide this lawyer thing is not for me, don't worry. Your JD can get you into an upper management job that is the right fit for you. So I applied to a bunch of law firms. I applied to a bunch of public interest. Even though my heart was in public interest, I wanted a public interest job, but I was not going to limit myself because at the end of the day, we all have bills to pay. I just rhymed. I'm sorry. So I applied to teaching positions, lecturing positions. My first job, however, was at a Legal Services of Central New York in Binghamton, New York. So I actually left Buffalo for 2 years before I came back to Buffalo. And so that's where I was for 2 years doing landlord-tenant work, doing civil legal services work. And then when I wanted to transition back to Buffalo, again, I used my networks and my contacts here in Buffalo. The reality is the goal is to land your first job. Once you land your first job, then becomes a lot easier to navigate to where you want to be, especially if you maintain contact with your classmates, your mentors, your alumni group. You can end up where you want to be. And my tip in terms of landing your first job, and I know you'll get the scare story that there's no work out there for lawyers, that is not true. You just have to be strategic about it. Don't limit yourself in terms of where you're applying. Don't go in saying, oh, I just want to do criminal defense work, and so that's the only thing you're applying for. Because there may not be a criminal defense opportunity open when you graduate, but there may be appellate level work that you can do until the criminal defense position opens. So do not limit yourself. My recommendation is every single job posting that comes in from the career services website, because you'll get those emails, apply to it. Put in your resume, put in your cover letter, and put in your stellar writing sample that Justin had, and you will land a job.
Thank you. Justin, can you tell us about your job search?
Yeah. So I want to say the Career Services Office, super helpful. I don't think they actually, I ended up just getting a job through a random job posting, but the Career Services Office still did everything they could to help. Before I was hired, they were, I forget who it was I was speaking with, but they would, I'd get emails from them like, hey, I just saw this on this job board here and wherever you were interested in this kind of stuff. I think you should apply. Like they were super helpful because I don't think anyone really brought this up. The school has an incentive to see everyone get jobs. One of the things that goes into the ranking for the law school is how many graduates of that year get jobs and when they get jobs. So the Career Services Department, they really want to help you. The law school, it's in the law school's best interest for you to find a job. So they're super helpful. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Thanks, Justin. Hey, Justin, do you have any tips about managing the financial aspect of going to law school?
Yeah, so I guess obviously it's going to be different for everyone because your finances before law school. One thing I'd recommend, there's a ton of opportunities through the university and elsewhere for like scholarship and that kind of thing. But you don't just some people get them, like there's scholarships with applications, but there's a ton of additional ones. The thing about them is you do have to apply. So you have to, send a letter, apply, do all that. That's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is, law school is expensive. If you're going to be taking out loans, you obviously have to pay them back someday. One thing that I wish I had done, and my mom told me to do this, and I, to this day, regret not doing it. She said, make sure the interest is going to accrue. If you can, just put $100 here or there every other month or so to keep it from going up. And I just didn't do that and have to pay significantly more now. So that's one thing. And then as far as, just that the finances themselves, everyone has different finances. So what your situation is like how, maybe you have some money saved up, maybe you've been working. I don't know. But just try to, get your finances in a spot where you'll be able to manage everything. I will say, if you're working or not during school, most people end up working at least during 2L year because you get internships and all that. When I got a paid internship, things were significantly better than when I was doing unpaid internships. So, that is one thing. Try to look for paid internships. Your 1L year for the summer, you're probably not going to have one, but 2L, 3L year, try to go for a paid one.
Carisha?
So I worked throughout law school. I didn't have a choice. That was really the only way I would have been able to keep the roof over my little apartment over my head and had food. So I had a part-time job. It was on campus at UB. It was not a legal job. I was a graduate assistant. So I did counseling to undergraduate students who were looking to go to law school through a specific program, and I got a monthly paycheck. I don't recommend it to anyone, especially your first year having to work and manage school. It's a lot of stress. I also applied to a lot of scholarships. UB does have a wide variety, and as Justin said, there are also scholarships that are not offered through the law school that you can research and apply to. But the biggest tip I'm going to give is, and I say this to every single person that asks me this question about law school, you have to remember, think about it this way. Law school is an investment in yourself, right? So if that means you have to take out a student loan to go because this is an investment in yourself and your future, do it. In America, debt is a natural part of our life. The key is making sure that you manage your debt properly. You make your monthly payments timely, etc. So after you take out that student loan and they come and they're knocking and say time to pay back, that's when you manage your debt appropriately, because that's how you build credit, right? And if you don't have credit, you can't buy a house, you can't buy a car. So think about it that way instead of thinking about it as all of these zeros I am going to be inheriting. Because the reality is you're investing in yourself to get this degree to hopefully put yourself in a higher income bracket. So then you can timely make your monthly payments, because no one's going to expect you to just shell out dollars to your loan individuals right after you graduate. You'll timely make your monthly payments, build your credit, still have your income, set aside a little for savings, get to the point where your credit is good, your income is good, your debt to loan ratio isn't bad. And if you want to buy a house, they can trust that you will pay the mortgage because you were timely paying your student loans, right? So with law school, any law school you go to, whether it's UB, CUNY, Harvard, it's gonna come at a cost. And you can't let the cost of it scare you away from the benefits if this is what you've decided you want to do. Because that's just the reality of the country we live in. And that's it. It's like, it's gonna cost, and you have to decide that this is an investment. I'm going to treat it as an investment, and then I'm going to make smart money-making decisions to ensure that this investment pays off.
Thank you so much. Anna?
Yeah, so I echo what everything Carisha said, everything that Justin said. There's only two things that are certain in life. I don't know if everybody has heard this, but I think I learned this in law school: taxes and death. Okay, not to be grim about it, but like Carisha said, you know, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in an education that's going to take you places. All right, so don't be scared by what that might look like. And also, because UB Law is one of the cheapest schools in New York State, you will have a lower debt than probably some of your other, you know, classmates from that go to a private university, for example. So I knew that going to UB was the best choice because of that. Now, I will say this: I was not strategic about my loans, and it was because I couldn't afford law school on my own. Unfortunately, my parents were not in a situation to help me. I didn't want to work because, like Carisha said, it's a lot. I did also work at CSTEP, which is the graduate assistant job that Carisha had mentioned, and it helped with like my personal, you know, finances, like cell phone bills and stuff like that. So my number one tip is be strategic. If you don't have to take out the full amount of loans, do not take them out, because, you know, my father was in the mindset that he was going to win the lottery. And so he was like, take the full amount, you're going to be fine. Now I'm like, so you see, Dad, why I didn't want to do that. So if you do take the full amount, just pay it back, like give it back. Don't waste it. Don't go on vacations unless you really need to, because mental health is a thing and you need to take care of yourself. But be strategic about how much you take out. UB has an amazing financial aid office. And I remember being in in the officer's office all the time. Like, what do I do? How do I decrease this? What scholarship opportunities are there for me to apply? UB offers so many of them. If you don't get a scholarship when you get accepted, you still have the opportunity to get scholarships throughout law school, which is awesome. So just be strategic, know yourself, and don't go crazy with the loans if you don't have to.
Thank you so much. Do you have any tips or recommendations for the application process? Anais, go ahead. Sure.
So again, when I was applying to law school, I was part of a pre-law program that kind of helped me prepare for the package, right? So the package meaning your personal statement, your LSAT score, your recommendation letters, and any other additional statements that you are going to provide, whether those are like the diversity, adversity statements that are to be included. So number one tip is be organized. know your deadlines. We're already in January, or we're already in February, basically. So if you're thinking about applying for school in the upcoming fall semester, definitely start looking at these deadlines. I believe UB has rolling admissions, but the earlier you apply, the better the chances of having a scholarship or other opportunities. So be strategic in your, process, okay? Know your deadlines. Make sure that you have everything that the school is asking for. So for when I applied to UB, and thankfully, because of the pre-law program, I just made sure that it was the tightest application possible. So work on your personal statements, right? There are going to be, various people reading them and making a determination about, do I really want this person in the school based on what you're writing, right? So make sure that your personal statement is attractive and appealing, that it speaks to the reader. Make sure that your LSAT, if you don't have a good LSAT, that your grades can compare, right? Can balance them off. I was not the best LSAT scorer. And so I knew that, hey, I have to make sure my grades are up to par so that they balance out, right? So each law school is going to give you that average. Make sure that you're within that average. And if you're not, make sure that you provide addendums to explain, what caused, such hardship or decline in grades or LSAT, because life happens. This has been probably the hardest 2 years for most of us, right, with COVID. So just make sure that you explain yourself if there's some type of, discrepancy or gap, and just be organized.
Great. I think Anais answered that question pretty fully. And in the interest of time, I'll just move on to what I believe will be our last question. And we'll start with Carisha. How did you relax and manage your stress during law school?
You pick one day of the week where you do nothing law school related. And I tell only one day, because that's the only thing your brain is going to allow you to give yourself, because you're going to just be so stressed and anxious in general. But you pick one day. For me, it was every Friday night. I did not do anything school related. I sat in my apartment. I went to Hulu and watched my favorite TV show that I didn't get to watch during the week, whatever it is, Gossip Girl, How to Get Away with Murder, whatever it is. I ordered my favorite thing to eat or had my favorite glass of wine. And that was every Friday. And the reason I chose Friday evenings was because the next day, Saturday, so there should be nothing due, no reason to be stressed out like, oh, I can't take this night off because I have something due Saturday morning. And then once you recoup, just not think about school, you start fresh Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon or Sunday, whenever it is you decide you're going to start doing your reading for the week. So that's my number one tip. Pick one evening of the week. I recommend Friday evenings because you don't have the stress of anything upcoming. You have at least 2 days before you got to worry about an assignment, right? The other thing is have your person. Have your person that you will call in those moments of panic, those moments of anxiety, those moments when you feel like, I can't do this. I am not cut out for this. Like, what was I even thinking? Have your person that is going to talk you off that ledge and remind you why you are here. That can be a family member, a friend, a stranger. I don't know. For me, it was my mom. But have your person that you can call to remind you of why you're doing this. You're going to need that person. And the third tip is find one law school buddy. You just need one. You don't need an entourage, trust me, because they will stress you out. You need one law school buddy who is ride in the same struggle bus as you. So the law school buddy can't be someone who thinks that they know it all and that you're dragging them down. It has to be a law school buddy that both of you guys look at each other and like, am I confused? Are you confused? We're both confused. Okay, good. I'm not alone in this. Okay. So have one loss, and to this day, we still talk. She's in DC doing her thing. But I have my one law school buddy that after we met in 1L year in our legal research and writing class, and after 1L year, we tried to have at least one class together in 2L year. We didn't have to take but at least one class, because you need that one law school buddy who is in the situation and understand what you're going for. This person should be separate and apart from the person who's going to talk you off the ledge. So those are the three things that got me through law school.
Amazing. Justin, anything to add?
Yeah, a couple things. One, kind of before you get into the whole stress and relaxation, just try to be organized. Personally, I am not an organized person. I am just kind of do things when they happen. And I realized pretty quick I needed to be organized, like set deadlines when things are due and all that. Just because if you have everything ahead, you know when you're going to be working, and you can have time to yourself. You can figure things out and know, and it really does reduce the stress of just knowing when things are. So definitely that's one thing. Another thing is whatever your interests are, your hobbies, what you do to relax, just don't forget about it. I know some people that had a really rough time at school because they just didn't take any time to themselves. Like they just gave up on all their hobbies and just tried to study all the time. Those people were incredibly stressed out and a mess for 3 years. Don't be like them. Whatever your hobby is, like to dance or play video games or watch sports or whatever, just do that. Like obviously you can't do it all the time, but take some time out for that. And then one last thing, non-law school friends are great, because if all your friends are from law school, you're always going to be talking about law school. So just if you have friends that are not from law school, make sure you still do things with them, because it's really good to be able to just go out and have a beer with someone and not talk about law school. Yeah, those are probably the three things I could think of that kept me sane.
Thank you. Anna?
I don't think I have anything to add. I agree with everything Carisha and Justin said. Be happy, find what makes you happy. I think one of the funniest things that a professor said during our orientation was, during law school, fall in love. That doesn't necessarily mean fall in love with a person or, a partner or whatever, but fall in love with something, right? To keep you motivated, whether that's an activity, whether that's the gym, whatever makes you happy, like fall in love with it, and just like have that as a reminder that everything's going to be okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to our panelists for giving us your time and all your valuable experiences and advice. We are going to wrap up our final event of this week's virtual open house, and thank you to all of our guests who have provided such wonderful questions. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening, everyone. Stay healthy.
Bye, everyone. Good luck.
Have a good one.